Hey guys, this is Gideon Kane from Bad Games, and I'm here with Guild Wars 2 combat tutorial for my warrior. This is Warpetal, my warrior. She specializes in crit damage and increased critical hit rating. So I'll just show you her traits real quick. She's spec for power, for precision, and for critical damage. Uh, the warrior uses heavy armor, so she has a lot more survivability than the thief does, and the only limitation is that rather than use an initiative, each of her moves actually has a cooldown on it, so you'll find yourself spamming one more often than you will with the thief. The main traits that I want to stress would be, let's see, first would be the 33% to cause bleeding on critical hits. Dots are always good, and since you'll be critting so often, having all your enemies around you bleeding is a good thing. Also, the gain 40 precision, which is the main stat that affects critical hits. Gain 40 precision for each unused signet. Signets are these moves down here. They grant you a passive ability, but they can also be activated for an active ability, though I usually don't ever use a signet's active ability, as the passive is so beneficial. It's not worth losing it for 25 to 60 seconds, depending on whatever its cooldown is. Let's see, the other one is Rending Strikes, which gives you a 33% to cause vulnerability. Now, as I mentioned in the previous tutorial, vulnerability, for each stack of vulnerability, the damage done per attack to an enemy increases by 1%. So, if you get a 33% chance to cause vulnerability, and you're critting all the time, you could be doing 1% increased damage every single time you swing your sword, which can really add up very quickly. And then for the discipline trait line, I really have to recommend the fast hands trait. Its weapon swapping recharges 5 seconds faster. Now, as far as I know, every other class in Guild Wars 2 requires you to wait 10 seconds. So being able to swap your weapons twice as fast allows for more hectic, greater variety of combined abilities. And gaining 10 seconds of might per weapon swap is also extremely useful. Since it's been reduced to 5 seconds, and every time you swap you gain 10 seconds of might, you basically constantly have might, and might is increased damage buff that gets applied. So I'm going to quickly run you through my weapon abilities. I use the Great Sword and double axes. The double axes are pretty much a very quick and useful weapon. The main abilities that I like to use are the 4 and 5. The 4, as you see, it gives you 2 stacks of Fury, which increase your critical chance, which is already extremely high since I'm so far into the trait line. So I like to begin by using 4 on an enemy to give myself an extra 20 bit of critical chance, and then Whirling Axe, which is my personal favorite ability, maybe even in the whole game. It's a sustained spinning attack which allows you to lash out at many people around you. It's very devastating, especially when you have that increased 20% crit chance activated right beforehand. And then for the Greatsword, I like to use the 100 Blades attack. It cools down every 3.5 seconds with the proper traits. I believe it's 5 seconds if you don't have the traits set up. But so every 3.5 seconds, I can whip my blade a half dozen times, or it looks like 8 times, and it actually does an extreme amount of damage. The Whirlwind attack, it's much more difficult to use. You actually have to target somebody in order to charge directly at them, otherwise you'll just be charging forward. It's easy to miss with that. Now the Blade Trail is useful. It's basically the warrior's only ranged attack, besides equipping a gun, which I normally don't do. And the Rush mode allows you to cover a lot of distance between you and your target very quickly. I like to use these 3 moves in combination, so I go 5, 4, 3, and I'll show you in a little bit here. 5 rushes me towards my target, 4 throws a blade at them, and then 3 rushes back through them, or I can also go the other way and use 3, 4, 5, where I charge through them and then turn around and throw my blade at them, which automatically puts me in line to use the rush mode. For the right hand side, I normally just keep the signets running, since as you saw in my trait line I get plus 40 precision or increased crit for every unused signet. So let's head off into the wilderness and check the warrior out. Alright, here we are. I'm gonna go around and kill a couple of these young Karkas. I usually start with the greatsword, simply because it has the charge move on 5, so that allows me to get the enemy quick. And as soon as I get there, I usually hit 2, so I slash around. Then I swap my weapon, 4 to increase my crit, and then 5 to spin around, and dead. Now you notice I lost a lot of health. The warrior does wear heavy armor, but unfortunately I've moved all my specs towards damage dealing capabilities. So in order to really be protected, you have to spend your traits in a protective trait line. Now the warrior uses the adrenaline gauge here, which is your typical rage meter, where the more you attack, the more adrenaline you get. I used to not use the adrenaline at all, because a lot of my abilities depend on having a high adrenaline to, say, give me more damage or allow me to heal better. But I found with the 100 blades, the 2 on the greatsword and the 5 whirling axe, it generates so much adrenaline so quickly that you don't really miss out on a chance to gain adrenaline. So I run up here and I drain out my adrenaline. Both moves are basically super attacks, but you see the 100 blades does a lot, and then if I'm not gonna have a lot of chance because he's gonna die too soon. But you see, just with 2 moves, I gained almost all of my adrenaline back. One of the main abilities that you have at your disposal isn't even available until you're actually been downed. It's this ability right here called Vengeance. It allows you to rally yourself, which means get back on your feet and keep fighting. If you defeat the enemy within the 15-second time limit, you actually get back on your feet. So if I defeat this enemy, which should be no problem, within 15 seconds, I actually don't suffer the consequences of dying. I'm going to show you that move I was talking about earlier, where it's 3 to charge through, 4 to throw my sword at him, and 5 to get back to him. And then I can hit 2 to attack the enemy, and quickly switch weapons, and spin. This has been a Guild Wars 2 combat tutorial for the warrior. The warrior is a class that is going to appeal to somebody who wants to get in there and do as much damage as possible. Has a lot more survivability than the thief, maybe not as much as, say, the guardian, but its high damage allows you to pretty much take down any enemy before it would even cause you a threat. So I've enjoyed playing the warrior very much, and if you're interested, you should definitely give him a try.